Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of the viewers from around the world. This is your host Vaibhav. In today's session of JForex Indicators Explained, we will be considering one interesting indicator which is used to look at the strength of the trend. Whatever is the trend, whether it is bearish or bullish, we utilize this indicator to see if the trend is strong enough to warrant further entry for move in the same direction. So this is the indicator named Average Directional Movement Index, shortened as ADX. And some of you might even be familiar with these indicators. Those who have been trading in the market for some time might have used it at some point in time. And if not, this session is for you. And even if you have used it earlier, you can always learn some new ways to utilize these indicators. So let us now head to the Forex 4 platform, the newly released trading platform from the Dukascopy Bank SA. You will find this indicator amongst the momentum indicator. We utilize this indicator to figure out the momentum of the underlying instrument, and for that it is included under the momentum indicators, or you can simply do a quick search, type in the ADX and it will appear. There are two indicators, the average directional movement index rating, which we will see in subsequent session. For the day, the choice is ADX. So this is the Euro USD chart with the hourly candle grid, and I have plotted the ADX with the default calculation period of 14. And at the moment, the output value for ADX is at 20. And if we go a couple of hours back, at that point in time, the ADX output was 25 plus 25, and this indicator is fairly simple to use. It's a simple indicator both in terms of its visual plotting and also its interpretation. There are key levels to watch out for the indicator output value, and one of the key level is considered as 25. The common, or you can say classical interpretation, is that the output of the ADX above 25 indicates that momentum is quite strong for the underlying instrument, and if the output is rising hour on hour, then that is even better, because having reached a strong momentum in trend, the trend is of course likely to reverse at some point in time. So at that point in time, the ADX output value will start rising. That's why I said that about 25 and rising is the preferred gauge of the strength of the trend. So whenever we have the price action in any direction, it can be on the lower side or it can be on the higher side, and if it is accompanied by the output of the ADX rising about 25 and rising over an hour, then I think that might be the moment to consider fresh trading opportunities, and see if we can get the optimum entry and exit points for further move in the same direction of the trend. So we have to consider other factors to determine the trend, and this indicator is more of an strength gauge for the underlying trend. So if the momentum has been bearish, all we simply do is look for fresh entries whenever the momentum is gaining strength. So as I said, as soon as value starts above, rises above 25, and if it continues to rise, then that is the time to consider the fresh entry for trading. So suppose here somewhere around 1 GMT of 19th August, we had this ADX output rising about 25 and it continued to rise. So suppose if you were to short it at that day and that point in time, you would have made significant gains, as we saw that the underlying instrument, the Euro USD, continued to decline for all of the day. It continued to decline for more than 24 hours, and in course of that, it declined by around 150 pips. So that's quite a big move for any trader, and if you were to simply rely on the ADX, you would have been able to figure out the entry and exit opportunities. Here, then the trend reversed, but it wasn't strong enough. So, for strength to gain strength, we require time. Then, in course of time, on 25th August, we are seeing the underlying instrument rising, and at the same time, the ADX output is also on the rise with value climbing about 25. So, suppose if you were to go long somewhere close to this levels, you would have seen further gains, but this time the gains were not that big. But of course, you can revise the stop loss above your entry points and then keep the trade open as long as you want, or you can simply put in one predetermined target zone, target price, depending on the pip distance, and you can close the trade on those desired values. So either way, the thing would have worked just fine. And after that, the ADX again declined, and there was no strong trend for quite some time. And it took a couple of days more for the hourly ADX to again climb above 25 in a course of time. So here it happened in today's session only that we saw the ADX climbing above 25. But this time the underlying instruments move, the Euro USD's move doesn't really sustained. It wasn't really sustained. We saw the Euro USD correcting further in the day, and it declined, and now again it is reversing those corrective move and climbing back again. So this is interesting formation, and this underlies the fact that no formation is going to be perfect. You will always get correct signals, wrong signals, or the signals which won't generate much value. So that is part of the game, and we have to keep that possibility in mind with while trading with this indicator, the ADX, or any other indicator for that matter. So the key thing is to get the trade entries right, and then also apply sound risk management strategies to contain the losses in case our trade position happen to goes wrong. So in that case, we have to simply cut down on losses and make good amount of money when we happen to be right. So here, this indicator is going to give you the idea of the strength, and using that, you can determine whether the trend is likely to sustain or not. You can utilize it on different time frames. This is the hourly chart. I am now going to change it to 15 minutes. For intraday traders, the lower time frames like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 15 minutes are likely to be much more useful, and we can see if the strength of that intraday trend is strong enough or not, and only if we see that the momentum is strong enough, we can decide to take fresh positioning in the same direction of the trend on the intraday basis. So you can utilize this indicator in various ways to make the judgment for yourself, and utilizing this indicator is likely to give you good entry and exit points. You can optimize your entry and exit to get into the trend which is likely to stay strong for at least next couple of hours, and accordingly you can stand to profit if the momentum sustains. Here on the lower time frame of, say, let's take the 10 minutes as our preferred time frame on the lower time frame for the intraday trades, and we saw the ADX climbing above 25 early in the day at around 11 GMT, and after that it didn't really sustain much, but still we had 25-30 pips move on the higher side, and then the strength of this underlying instruments trend went, and we didn't really get any fresh big moves in the subsequent part of the day. So you can take these indicators indicator on multiple time frames and see what kind of time frame suits your purpose. All we want to do is all we want to do is get the momentum right, get the strength of the trend right, and that's what we are going to use this indicator for. Now coming to the editing options, we will look at this time period. We can vary the calculation period from 14 to any other. For example, if you want to use larger data points for calculation of the strength of the trend, then we can do that as well. So here now we are taking into consideration last 21 candle periods of 30 minutes each, and on the basis of that we are seeing these ADX plotted. All right. So here on the hourly, half an hourly basis, we didn't really see ADX crossing and holding about 25. So that was a key marker there. If you were to trade using the half an hourly time frame and the combination of 21. So you will have to determine what kind of time frame and the calculation period is likely to get you the optimum entry and exit points. And it shouldn't be the case that you get into the trade too late, and to avoid that you have to make multiple observations and see what kind of formation, what kind of structure is likely to produce least amount of lag and get you into the move as soon as it starts, or at least in initial hours of that big strong move. So for that you will have to try these combinations on multiple time frames and see what kind of formation is likely to work for you. Let's consider 24 and hourly. So this is the hourly time frame with the calculation period being 24. That means last whole day's data is being considered. And in that case, we are not really seeing the ADX output climbing above 25 for quite a long period of time. Here it had happened last week when the momentum was bearish, and we saw that momentum sustaining itself and giving us gains of around 150 pips in the course of time. So whenever you use larger time frames and also the larger calculation period, you will likely get the trend which are going to be generated only once in a while. It won't be generated multiple times in a day, or even in a couple of days there might not be any fresh entry. But whenever these signals will be generated, this will be having higher probability of being good for trading opportunities, at least for next couple of days. So you will have to then take your trade positions with that framework in mind with larger time frame. Now I will restore it back to the default setting of 14, and let's consider what we can do with the output. We can style it up, we can go for different color combination. If you don't really like dull blue, then you can brighten it a bit. You can style it up, you can go for these various styling options provided on the platform. You can play around with this transparency, you can reduce it, you can increase it. Then comes level. We don't really have any option provided to us. Coming to the advanced customization app option, you can opt for this recalculate on new candle only. If you opt for this, then the output value will remain constant throughout the given candle period. Now for this hour, the output of this ADX will remain constant, and it will change only in the next new candle formation. If you want the calculation period to be highlighted, here the 14 candlesticks data will be highlighted. It is not that visible, but it is being highlighted on the platform. All right. calculate from custom data. You can further customize this indicator. You can use any instrument of your choice, or you can simply use from the chart, whatever instrument you are using on the chart. The calculation of the ADX will be done for that. But if you don't really want the ADX to be plotted for other instrument, when you change the chart, you can simply specify this instrument here, and it will be calculated only for that instrument. The candle period is also applied similarly. You can use it from the chart. So whenever you will be changing the chart from, say, for example, hourly to half an hourly, the plotting of the ADX will be done accordingly. It will be freshly calculated using half an hourly candles. The calculation period will remain the same, but it will be based on half an hourly. So similarly, if you change it to 4 hourly or even for that matter daily, the new calculation will be based on that. But if you specify that it should be, say for example, as per only 15-minute candlesticks, then regardless of what the chart's candle formation is, even if it is hourly, this calculation will be done only from the 15-minute perspective. So that is one diff key point to keep in mind while customizing this indicator. Now I will restore it back to use from the chart. The ask or bid, it can be specified or it can be simply used from the chart. If you want the indicator to be shown on all the grids, then you have to check this box. If you opt out of this, then you have to specify on which time period the charting of these ADX should be visible, and only on those time frames the plotting will be there. Say for example we go for 5 minutes, then this ADX will be plotted only on two time frames, the 5 minutes and hourly. It won't be there if I change it to 15 minutes or half an hour or any other time frame. Now again, if we go back to the hourly candle formation, we have it in the bottom. Base period can be none, or this one of the four options, one of the five options, and it usually doesn't make much difference. So guys, that's it from my side for today's session involving the explanation of the average directional movement index, and I hope you have been able to understand its properties and possible uses. And if you have any query or any idea to share, you can write back to me in the feedback section, and I would be more than happy to take the discussion forward. For further coverage of the market developments, do check out the Dukascopy Analytics page. We are also available on the Facebook. You can reach out to us there too. The link for the newly released JForex 4 platform has also been included in the bio. So thank you all for joining in. Stay tuned. There is next session coming up right after this on the technicals of various instruments like Euro USD, USD JPY, etc. So do watch it. Thank you all for joining in. I will be back tomorrow with a new indicator, new explanation, new uses. See you tomorrow. Have a profitable day ahead. Goodbye.